I enjoy doing this a lot. This is almost like Christmas for me, unwrapping my present. I want to make a point to you. You can see I haven't trimmed anything yet. Can you see there's a base right down there? When is the best time to repot any tree? Okay, it really has to be, let's get it out and see the difference between this and that one. So with anything that you don't know, this is always the first step. You are scared and then it's unfamiliar, you don't know anyone there. What do? You bring your teddy bears with you. Something familiar, something that, you got something to hold back onto.
Okay, good morning, Tien. Hi, everyone. Today we've got a 2-for-1 deal. We're going to do some root pruning, and we're also going to show you the tools that are required to actually perform root pruning. Tien's got quite a few samples to go through today, so sit back and enjoy.
All right, well, thanks everyone. We have actually had a few requests to demonstrate how we perform root pruning on trees. Before we get into it, it's probably a good idea to talk about, well, what's root pruning and why do we do it? Okay, often when we look at a tree, we look at the nebari, we look at the trunk, we look at the branching, we also look at the leaf, the foliage on the trees. But often there's a hidden element to the tree, which are all the roots down there that we don't get to see. I bring that point out because we can see nebari, trunk, branching, and foliage throughout the year. So we can make decisions, we can think about how to process and how to work on them. Whereas the roots, we only get to see them, we only get to see them once in every so often that we repot the tree. All right, so often there's not a lot being talked about as to what to aim for and what to create and what do we do with it and what will happen to the roots if we don't do certain things. Okay, so I find that that's a very under-discussed subject. So today I'd like to go through what we do with them in training them and why we do them. If we don't do this is what will happen. All right, so, and also the way we train the roots are no different to how we train the branches. In the sense that if we let the branch run, you just keep running. Okay, and then we won't have any budding from there, very unlikely. The same thing, if we just let the roots run, they just keep running, circling around the pot. By the time that we want to come back and cut the roots back to put it in a bonsai pot, all the roots might have thickened, become longer, and all the fine roots could be at the tips of those roots. So once we cut it back, there might not be any sort of fine roots closer to the trunk where we could have left, and then allows us to put it in a small pot. All right, so in that same regard, we need to cut them back quite often to produce a nice compact fine feeder root system around the base. So we can put it straight away into a bonsai pot. And in fact, I will definitely attempt to put this in a bonsai pot to show you why that was important.
Now what's the, I know that I've been caught up on this a couple of times, the difference, you've got root pruning and repotting.
Yeah.
So they're obviously two different things. I've always just incorporated in the one repotting thing, but they're two different practices.
Yeah. I would say repotting and repotting, you can, again, that's using the branch, the tree as an example. A lot of times people just do like a hedge prune, or just cut them back, and cut them back to maintain the shape. That's like repotting. Okay, pull the tree out, we just trim a bit of exterior and into the next pot. And as a result, you often have to go into the bigger size pot because the tree was just cut back and cut back and cut back. The roots was just trimmed slightly and put it into bigger pot. Root pruning is like we do very detailed, meticulous assessment on the branching and cut back anything that we don't need and start to build nice ramification in the branching. And root pruning serves the same purpose as we got to really, almost in a way, bare root a tree like this and to assess whatever roots are in there. Okay, so in a sense, root pruning allows us to rejuvenate the whole system in such a way that it's more sustainable. What I mean is, often I made the point earlier, the trees, they actually don't know that they need to be a bonsai. The trees don't care about fine roots in there. The trees don't care about fine branching in there. Okay, so that will never change. So if we do not artificially, if you like, prune them back, select the right branching and cut them back, the trees don't know any better. All right, they just grow out. That's their natural tendency to have taproots down low, big roots out coming out to anchor the tree into the ground where there's no need for that. All right, so we need to do that selection for the tree. All right, so that's almost understand that's what the tree wanted to do, by in terms of trying to make it to grow with us in the purpose of growing a bonsai. We sort of need to train the roots in that way. All right, I often see in a lot of trees that the roots are not cut back regularly enough. The roots are just bad and they're just out, and then there are not a lot of fine roots. That would be very similar to how the tree has nice trunk, but all the branches are big and long and leggy. Similar. Okay, so that comes from our pruning. Okay, all right. Without further ado, let's just pull one out and let's see what's in there. Now, these both trees are trident maple. Trident maple, I find that is one of the hardiest tree, and they can handle a lot of, should we say, abuse from us. We can do a lot of things to it, and the tree will respond quite well. This is something that I grew myself from a little 1-year-old sapling, no bigger than that. I would say we'll be pushing back 10, 12 years ago now. And I have pruned the roots, I would say probably 5 to 6 times in that time. Now, this is a tree that has wiring down to the trunk and in the ground and grown for 2 years roughly, and was dug up 2 years ago, and we started to train the branches. All right, so this is about a 6 years old tree from seed. This is roughly 10 to 12. Okay, so I would like to show you 2 different approaches. One is purposely grown and always grown in a pot. That was something that's been in the ground for 2 years. Okay, and let's see what the differences are in the roots. So let's have a look at this one first. All right, now let's have a look at this tree. You can probably see the nebari is actually, nebari means the surface roots spread on the tree is in fact quite wide on all sides. Okay, this wasn't anything sort of magical thing that we did to it. It was just from regular root pruning. When I said regular, I did it once every year in the first 2 to 3 years, and once every second year after that. So it's been root pruned from a single stick to that, I would say 6 to 7 times in the last 12 years. Okay, but you can see it's actually quite impressive. It has spread out very, very wide. And that comes from our pruning. Okay, so let's have a look and we'll see what's under there. The root spread actually is wider down there. So let's have a look. So first thing we would do is we'll use a hook one instead of 2 or 3. I find that with a single hook one, you have better control and you know exactly what you are working on. With 2 or 3, almost like you are using 2 different scissors at the same time cutting same thing. All right, I tend to find that you tend to be ripping, tearing a lot of the roots because you don't know what this is doing, what that's doing. All right, but with this, you know exactly when you come across something, something is in the way, so you know how to adjust your force not to rip the roots out. Okay, so usually the first thing is to look at, well, what are the surface roots like? So we just use this, not this, but this side down horizontally, just to slowly scrape it away. So this is mainly right now to uncover, okay, just to see what we have to work with. I enjoy doing this a lot. This is almost like Christmas for me, unwrapping my present. Because we did all the work to it last year or the year before. And right now we are just unwrapping present, and I know what to expect. And I'm excited to see how the roots have progressed in this last couple of years. So this is like Christmas come early for me. So I enjoy the process. So, and that also tells you if you work on your roots often enough, you can be very pleasantly surprised as to how well the roots are rewarding you of your efforts in the previous year. All right, so You can just see there are finer roots coming out all around there now. Okay, so we won't go any further. What we do now is we'll just use a sickle, a little saw, just to cut the bottom half off. I don't go through them and tease them out slowly, because even if you tease them out all slowly, they're going to be chopped off anyway. So because it's a tree that we have grown from scratch, I know the surface roots are right up above, just right below the base of the tree. So I know there's not going to be any big roots in there, or there should be plenty of fine roots in there, so I can just go straight whack across. But if it's a tree that you haven't dealt with in the root system, I would say you slowly work your way out, tease out all the sides and tease out the bottom. But in this case, I know there's definitely no need to spend time there. Just go straight across the base. So 50% off straight away. Down. You can see there's no thick roots whatsoever. All these are fine roots that have come out again in the last couple of years. Actually, I root pruned this last year, so this is only 12 months of root growth. I would stress, you don't do this to every tree. Okay, this is a tree that we have grown from scratch. So I know I root prune it every single year, every second year, so I know what the roots are like. And once you've got those off, then we work around, tease them out. So I'll go in there. Actually, you can see with a single hook. I'm just working my way, teasing out all the roots, making sure they don't tangle, they don't cross, and they emerge radially from the center of the trunk. All right. There shouldn't be any much obstructions in there, because I root prune it every year or every second year. And all the little tangle, I can feel something, but you can slowly tease it out. Okay, and you do that all the way around. You can see there are lots of fine roots. The principles are like this. In terms of branching, if you want to come up here, in terms of branching, we try to avoid a lot of branches emerging from the one spot. Okay, often it's called a bar branching in there. We don't want that because it swells up the junction where multiple branches come from the same point. That exact principle we can apply to the roots to our advantage. All right, so if you have lots of roots emerging from the one level, that will swell up the base, which is what you can see here. This is coming from 10 years of pruning it back, and then you can see that has flared out. And that's the same sort of lumpiness that we try to avoid in the trunk. And then we create that in the roots. Okay, so each time when I cut it back, I'll cut all the stronger roots off or back. And then once I cut it back, there will be hundreds of small roots emerging. So you can imagine later we'll look at that tree. That tree was put in the ground. There will be quite a few larger roots, but there will be absence of fine roots like this because it was allowed to run. It was not cut back as regularly. Okay, so let's unwrap the gift and see what the tree is giving us this time. But the main point is to make sure that they don't tangle up and all the larger roots are removed in favor of the finer roots, and we want lots of them.
So the finer roots just work a lot better than the bigger ones. They just absorb water and nutrients better.
Yeah, the finer roots, they have much higher function. The bigger roots, they are transporting the nutrients and water from the roots to the tip and the other way. But the finer roots, they do a lot more, okay, in terms of their function. And also the difference really for me is if you don't prune them back, initially you might have 10 good roots emerging from all sides. But over time, those 10 might be reduced down to 5 because some will grow thicker and take over, just like you have big branches will take over and it'll kill the smaller branches. Same principle. So if you don't prune them back regularly enough, the bigger roots will take over. And often you produce a tree with lots of big gaps in between the roots. We'll have a look at that one and see what that's like. But I want to show you this is something that's grown from seed and it's been pruned back and spent all its life in a training pot, never been in the ground. I can see it's quite impressive how it's flaring out. Okay, and up to this point, what we can do is use the big handle scissors, just trim away all these excess fine roots.
Can I ask you a question about why have they got big handles for pruning shears?
I suppose if they have small handle and small blades. You can see the blades are smaller, the handles are smaller. They are more for delicate work. If I want to cut certain smaller roots off, they are fine, and they are perfect for that purpose. Cut smaller, branches off like that. Whereas in this, you can see I'm cutting away a lot of fine roots. These just become more robust. You can cut quite a few. You compare to that, it's not you're cutting smaller, less roots at one go. So I use this for root pruning, and I use one of those pairs for pruning, a fine sort of pruning branching on the trees itself. So I don't really use this for roots. I have this pair for roots and that for branches. All right, so we just walk around. You can see I have removed easily, so far, roughly, I'll say 80% of the roots that were on the tree. And all this has grown in the last 12 months. And I'm not done actually. I need to go back in harder because I've trimmed the sides, I need to trim the bottom. All right, so we go tip it over and then just rake out the base.
So you're putting this one in a bonsai pot.
I will try to, I'll put it in bonsai pot now. After 12 years of growing it from seed, I would want to, it's time to start to transition the tree into bonsai pot now. Because in the past 10 years, all I have done is prune the roots, prune the tree back, and let it grow again, let it run. So usually, if you like, the tree has been root pruned properly, but the tree's development itself has been neglected. You will just prune back, put aside for 12 months, come back to it and look at it again. It was just water, nothing else done to it. But the branching itself, I have started to work on in the last 2 years. Okay, so now I'm happy with the root spread. I want to start working on the branching, refining it. So into a bonsai pot, for a practical reason, in a bonsai pot, I'll walk past it every day. Back in the training pot, I'll see it. I'll see you later in a year time. So now in a bonsai pot will be more practical.
It's time.
Yeah, so it's time, and that's what I mentioned earlier. When I'm happy with the roots, with the trunk size, with the height, with the branching placement, it's time to transition to bonsai pot. I want to make a point to you. You can see I haven't trimmed anything yet. Can you see there's a base right down there? Can you see that? All right, there's actually no roots coming out from there at all. Okay, and that's what we try to achieve with a tree like this. I look at that almost like if we make a cut, let's say we made a cut right there on the trunk. Imagine in, let's say, 4 or 5 years' time, that has calloused over completely. Do you think any branch will grow from there?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah, because it was just the bark callousing over.
Like a scar almost.
Yeah.
On
All right.
Body.
So if you prune the bottom often enough, that's what you get. Because it's formed a callus down there. So we were very unlikely to grow any roots from that. And I want to show you that in reality. That's after 12 months. Nothing is growing from down there. So what that happened, what that allows us to do is we can prune the roots back quite hard to fit it in the shallow tray straight away. I can fit it into any size shallow tray that we desire. There's no concern about, okay, I can put it in a small pot because I can't cut the roots. Well, we can because we have root pruning so often. Okay, we have trained the tree to have a lot of fine roots. You can see even after that much pruning, I'll say right now we have cut away easily about 90% of the existing roots. But that is still plenty of roots because we have lots and lots of fine roots. You can see there's no shortage of fine roots on the tree. Okay, now it allows us to go hard underneath.
So if you've got nursery stock,
Yeah,
you don't know what the root system is, and you pull it out and it's got long, thick roots in it, it's really advisable to give it a couple of years of root pruning before you put it in a bonsai pot.
Yes, I would say the premise before we can cut all this is we have identified enough surface roots near the nebari. When we have that, we can cut. When we don't have that, then we cannot be as hard because we're cutting away its water supply and everything else that comes with it from the roots. Okay, so we definitely have to be a bit more careful, a bit more reserved in your pruning. But you can see that's the root pruning done. So, so it's nice and flat. I can fit into any shallow tray. And that's come from pruning. And then that's a result from a stick. That's from a stick to this. If it's all done well, I reckon in 6 years, you can achieve from that to that in 6 years. Okay, because I did 6 years of pruning, but the tree is roughly 12 years because I skipped 1 year in between. All right, so actually you can see that's actually quite impressive growth.
Yeah.
So when people say that, well, it's going to take a long time, well, that's really 6 to 10 years of work. And to tell the truth, I've never been to Japan. I don't know how they grow the fine nebari, huge nebari spread on their maples, but I would say that's very close to what I would do in Japan. Okay, so that's from that, and even we need to assess the surface roots. Okay, let's do a bit more precision work. We want them to emerge all from one level. You can see there are a couple of roots. They are sticking a bit high. Okay, something like that. Okay, there's that one that's emerging a bit too high, so we can remove that. And often with roots, it's a bit like branching. When they are roots too high, often they are roots below that. Just like when they are branching too big, we can cut it back to smaller branches. Roots are the same. Okay, and also with the roots, you can see here, this root is actually quite large. It was quite long. I chopped it back. Now you go find roots there, but I would like the roots to have better taper. All right, taper is something that's consistent through the whole tree. Taper in the trunk, taper in the branching, taper in the roots. So you can see this one has no taper, just thickness. And all I do is I look for smaller roots further in. I can actually see, you can see there are fine roots there, right underneath. All right, because of that, with our branch cutter, we can cut it back. We can cut that big bit of roots off. And you can see now it transitioned from the nebari into a finer root. Similar things here, you can see it was cut back, but you can see they formed a lump there. So we got to go back in and find, you can see they are fine roots right underneath, right there. All right, so and we'll make the transition, we'll make the cut.
So those older roots just become the nebari, basically.
Yeah, all right, we'll cut it back, and then we want transition from all that lump back to a smaller transition into smaller roots. Same thing here. This one, you can see it's actually it's higher than the rest of them. All right, and there's actually no roots coming out of it. So in this case, I will remove it. All right, back to all those there. That comes from our work, okay? It just doesn't happen naturally. We've got to cut it back. We need to teach a tree how to grow those roots. All right, so you can see that's been cut back before. So that has formed from the nebari, thicker roots, thinner roots. Same thing here, it's got a very massive roots there. All right, so let me see. Okay, we've got to address this. Let's have a look. All right, I reckon the root spread is actually not too bad. Okay, to me the front is roughly the front of the tree. This is coming back to how do we select the best front of the tree. The tree leaning towards us through here, the cut is somewhere away. The tree comes to the front. So that to me is the front of the tree. But the nebari isn't the best. It doesn't have the widest spread. Okay, here it has actually quite nice spread through here. And even here, I would say that's probably the widest spread. But I can see that the trunk sort of goes away from us a little bit. All right. So I reckon we can go with this side. The trunk moves up to here. Okay, so that will give us, and then you can imagine we can put it up right about there. Okay, so that's actually not too bad. I would say that because it's formed quite a large root already. Obviously, I have cut it back before it has rooted out from the end. Do I want to cut back in there? I'm still debating that. There's a root there. There's not much happening. There's some fine roots in there too. Let's make a cut. We should have done this long time ago. We didn't do it, but it's never too late. Let's make a cut. All right, that way we have gotten rid of the lump. All right, and this will be buried underneath, and then we should expect roots to emerge from that cut. A lot of people will be too scared to cut, and say, well, we have taken off so much from the tree, and we have. But if you can imagine, initially when I root prune it back, the tree has only, I would say, the first time I cut it back, I was scared. I was scared in cutting them back, but the tree really only has the tap roots off. The tree only had about 2 or 3 roots like that dangling off the trunk. All right, and then the tree just pushed on, and it didn't show any sign of stress. The tree just pushed down. Okay, and now the tree, you can see the tree still has hundreds and hundreds of fine roots. Okay, along all sides. Of course, here we cut it back quite hard, so we will remove all that. All right, so I have no worry about the tree kicking on. Okay, so that's how sort of we need to be quite hard in how we prune the roots back. And this is applicable to a lot of deciduous trees. I would not say that you can do this to a pine tree or any other tree, but to a trident maple, this can be done. This is actually quite safe. Okay, but the premise is always there need to be an abundance of finer roots closer to a trunk. Then we can do a lot more. Just like if we have a lot of back budding, back branching, we can cut a lot of big branches off. Same principle. And often that we don't prune it back often enough. The branch has thickened, have stretched out. There's no back buds. We have no choice but to keep them. Same thing, if we let all the roots have grown out, we have no choice but to keep them. But in this case, we have lots of smaller roots, just like we have lots of smaller branches that allows us to replace some of the bigger branches. So it's exactly the same principle, but that comes from regular pruning. Now the tree is ready to be potted. Okay, so I won't do the repotting. Let's have a look at the difference between a tree that's being grown in the ground compared to this. All right, so just cover it up because there are fine roots in there. We do not want them to dry up. All right, so just cover them while we work on this.
Time of the year, it's always a big question for trident maples.
Yes, I didn't cover that. Okay. When is the best time to repot any tree? Okay. It really has to be species driven. For any deciduous trees, we'll do them before the buds emerging. If you want to zoom in there, you can see that the new growth is actually moving. You see that? They are actually moving now. New buds are emerging already on this tree. Okay, right now is early August in Melbourne, Victoria, and we are having 15, 18-degree days in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So the trees are definitely waking up, responding to the warmth that we have. And that's the perfect timing to do heavy reduction on roots because our trees are just waking up. However, I have made the point earlier, we have that many trees. A lot of times we have to do them where we can. So we have been repotting non-stop here at the nursery for about 3 to 4 months already. So end of autumn, we started repotting trees. But I will always reserve that prime time on my better trees. Okay, so right now is the best time to do them, and then we'll do the blue cedars and the black pine in a minute. So this is just before they wake up. Deciduous trees and conifers, early spring, late winter will be the prime time to do it. Because of the warmth they're coming back, the tree is waking up. So the tree will suffer less from the stress of root pruning. Okay, let's get it out and see the difference between this and that one.
Whoa.
All right, 2 years after being dug up. Okay, plenty of roots.
So it's been in the ground for
2 to 3, roughly I would say 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
or been in that pot for 2 years.
Yeah, in the ground 2 to 3 years, in the pot 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, so that's about 6 years right now from seed, and that's actually quite impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. Let's work it out slowly. So if you look at it from the surface, it looks pretty good spread, but let's see the difference under there. Something that's been produced fairly quickly compared to the one that's been grown slowly in the pot. You can see again, I'm just using a hook sideways, horizontally. I'm not digging into it just yet, or I'm not ripping into it just yet. We just need to find and identify what we have to work with. All right. All right, same thing. I know there's no big roots down there, so we just go across straight away. 50%, I would say 2/3 can come off. All right, you can see again, there's no big tab roots coming down from the bottom. Okay, and then we just work our way through. Let's tease out the trees from the side. Okay, I'll make a point. You see that on this tree, once it's teased there, there's no sort of a disc around it. All the roots are ready to grow into the new medium of the potting mix. If we don't prune them back and allow the roots to stretch out, almost fan out, and we just say we leave all that, you can see the roots are coming down. It's going to go sideways. If we just put it in if we just put potting mix in there, I find that the roots takes longer to grow into the new medium. But if we tease them out and work the soil in there, they sort of marry quicker. Okay, I hope I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we often would like the ends to be sort of just fanning out so that we can work the new soil into the gap. So the main part of the root ball is still intact, but the tips of the new roots, they're ready to grow into the new potting mix medium that we will be introducing to it. Okay, so let's see what we have to work with. All right, same thing. We have teased them over. Now let's trim them back.
Do you give much thought to how much soil you leave in there?
We always have to try to leave some soil. I do not believe that we need to and want to bare root them. There are some instances where we have no choice but to do it. I had to repot a few field grown, field collected trident maple the last few days, and it had a lot of old mud in there. So I had to hose them all out. So I had to bare root that tree. But once it's bare rooted, it's going to take a bit of time for the tree to re-establish the ecosystem, I suppose, if you like, the micro ecosystem that the tree has created. It's almost like so you would grow, but it would take longer. I use the analogy like if you are a young kid, your first time you go to a kindergarten, you are scared and then it's unfamiliar, you don't know anyone there. What do? You bring your teddy bears with you. Something familiar, something that you got something to hold back onto. That's the same thing. We don't want to bare root it all the time when we don't need to. Okay, I like to keep some of that old soil in there, just trim enough to do the arrangement in the roots. Okay, so we do not bare root them when we don't need to. Okay. All right, we can go a bit further now. But you can see this has only been pruned a couple of times. The roots are still growing out. Okay, still growing out. So we go hard at it. And this is where we'll go to the the knob cutter to go right in there and cut them all out. You can see I'm actually go really hard right in there. We've got to give the tree a reason to callus over down there. All right, you can see I'm going right at it. I understand if it seems very, very rough, very, very aggressive to a lot of people. But again, I'm coming back. The tree still had lots of fine roots. All right, so this is what the tree needs to kick off and continue in the springtime. Not all these big roots down there. That's not necessary. Okay, they can be removed. And we'll look at another tree in a minute once we've done this. That came from a customer, and the tree wasn't pruned back hard like this in its life. So we'll have a look at that tree as to see, well, how do we then deal with a tree that hasn't had the regular root pruning done to it, and how do we deal with it? Okay, but we have to go hard like this. All right. There's a big roots hanging down there. Okay, now that's pretty flat. Now let's have a look at what we have here. Again, you can see I'm just teasing it out. I'm not actually damaging any roots whatsoever. Just teasing them out. All right, let's have a look what we have. There's a huge root coming down. It's been cut. You can see roots are emerging from the cut. So if you can imagine, if we cut it, had we cut it back earlier, cut it back further, would have finer roots from here. Okay, and then you can see because of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only really 5 big roots that emerge from the tree. And because of that, we have those gaps where, yeah, there, where there's really not much roots happening. Compare this to that. All right. You can see the spread. Compare these two. There are lots of gaps in there, but this is pretty well spread out. All right, compared to this. And the main difference is it's being cut back hard like this, double to triple the amount of time. So that's been cut 6 to 7 times. That's been cut twice.
Yep.
All right, so that's a difference. And had we done it early enough, we would have cut it back before these roots become so big. Okay, and now we can still do something about it though. Okay, that's emerging a bit too high. All right, that one there, it can come off. We can go back to those better roots. All right, we want to cut it back. We want to introduce taper into the roots as well. All right, that's quite long. There are roots there. Let's go harder. There are roots here. Again, there are finer roots further in. We can go harder at it. There's a big roots here that comes off. Now, the elephant in the room is this one here. Okay,
yeah.
What do we do with it? My front was here without assessing the roots. Now let's look at the roots. This actually has a better spread. Okay, better flare from the top. Compared to this, you can see it's actually quite flat. Okay, this hasn't come out and there's a big gap in there. All right, so I'm actually favoring this side over that side. Slightly, all right? It's again, there's a gap here, but that's what we have to deal with. When the tree is grown quickly to pump up size in the ground, we will get that. Okay. Now you probably make a difference. It will make a difference really if we extract the roots, extract the tree every year. While it is in the ground, pull it out, trim it back hard in the ground, and let it grow. That would be similar to what we have there. All right, but I kind of find that it's hard work try to do that in the ground. Whereas it's in a pot, we can pull it out. The sacrifice branch actually just took off for about a couple of meters, and we cut it down, took off, cut it down again. So I kind of find out I can achieve the same sort of growth in a pot, albeit slightly not as much as in the ground because the roots can really go for a couple of meters out. In the pot, they come out, they sort of circle around the roots, but I can easily get to the tree and do something to it. All right, so that's what I meant about we can't just forget about it. The more we tend to the roots, the better the nebari will spread out. Otherwise, in this case, yeah, we have a big spread from the big roots, but nothing else happening. Okay, luckily we still have quite a bit of fine roots from here and there, which is why I have to cut some of these things back hard. If we don't cut them back, chances are these guys will grow thicker. These guys will eventually lose strength. Just like if we don't cut the big branches back from the top, these smaller branches, they have no chance of growing up because the big ones are too dominant. Okay, so I want to keep coming back to that point. How we trim the roots, the way they grow is similar to how we trim and how we train the branches. I think in this case, I don't want to go any further. Okay, we just pair it up. We might go harder on this side because I'm looking at the tree. If this is new front, that's the nebari. That's the nebari there. We'll probably just be right about there. Okay, so let me just pot it up. Okay, I won't trim it. That's pointing upwards. Let's cut it back in, shorten it. All right, now let's do something a bit different. This is a Japanese red pine that we have grown from a twisted specimen from my suppliers. And what happened with them was my suppliers would have the red pine saplings, and they got the back package from Europe. I don't know where they come from, but I just got them to twist the trunk and potted them up. And a lot of them, the twists in them were very, very weird and quirky. Almost not bonsai-like, so if you like. It was very, very weird. So, but we bought them because red pines are very hard to come by here, very hard to get them. So I picked out all the red pines that I could find, and we sort of reintroduced certain shape into them. And because they were all long and leggy, but with a lot of twist, what we could do the best of what we could, because they all lost their lower branches already, is making them into a sort of windswept cascade, windswept style that utilizes long sweeping branches, but we can still make something actually quite presentable, quite nice. If you want to make a compact tree, like it has lost all the lower branches, so it's out of the question. We do still have a little bud there. All right, so that's a backup there. So we always like to leave something in there. Should anything happen, you never know that yep, let's chop that out. Let's start again. All right, it's not uncommon, okay, but we have that as a backup, and then we'll work on that as a cascade windswept style. And I'm planning to put it in these pots, and we'll see how we go. So the idea is still to see how we sort out the root ball in this. This we have root prune one time. So this is in the 8-inch squat pot that we use here. So, but again, it's only been root prune one time here, so there could be a lot more surprises in there. So let's find out what we have in there. All right. Okay. It was tied down because we root pruned it. I would assume the reason to be tied down for a couple of reasons. There probably wasn't a lot of roots in there. Secondly, because it's sweeping to one side, it's very, very heavy on that side, so it needs to be tied down. So the wire was in there. Okay, and let's see what we have. All right, same sort of process. Let's see what nebari we have to deal with. Now, I don't expect any nice nebari on the tree. The roots were never cut prior to we repotting it last time. Okay, so let's see, let's discover together what we have in there. It still has a lot of the old soil. It's very mushy. That it's broken down quite a lot, and that's the thing with pine bark based potting mix. You compare this to what we have here. All right, that over the next 2 years will break down too. All right, so any pine bark based potting mix, I would say, yeah, 2 years will be probably the optimal time to use them. I think the 3rd year this is happening. Okay, so I suppose hence the advantage of using an inorganic, potting mix, Akadama or Canuma with pumice and lava rock or scoria, because they don't break down as quickly as the pine bark. But every 2nd year seems to be a pretty good time to do it anyway. Okay, I wouldn't want to leave it there any longer than 2 years. So you can see that's 2 years ago. You can see that's where the old soil was cut back to. Roots has grown through there, but you can still see that line there happening. All right, so what's down here? There are all the new roots that have emerged. All right, that root is dangling up, so that's need to come off now. Let's go through one more time. So with anything that you don't know, this is always the first step. To familiarize yourself with, okay, what do we have to deal with? And discover the bad and the ugly about what's under there. Okay, so this is a learning process. This is us getting to know the tree. And okay, now the surface is pretty well done, and let's go on the sides. Just break out the sides. See, this we can be a bit rough. Just loosen out the sides a little bit. Because it's actually quite hard, so I need to put a bit of force in there. You can see the white roots. Yes, you can see the white roots growing. All right, so the tree is definitely starting to move now. Here in Melbourne, now I should have stressed something. My key in reading the tree as to when is the best time to do them is looking at the candles. You can see this is a Japanese red pine. The candles are emerging. You can see they're just starting to grow now. They're just starting to emerge from the tip. Okay, while they are emerging, I find that that's the best time. You have roughly about 2 to 3 weeks window to do heavy reduction on roots. My reasoning is the tree just waking up from dormancy. Right now, the tree really is still using the preserved energy, I suppose, that's already there through the winter month. Through autumn, it's accumulated all the energy. It's all stored a month, across the whole tree. So right now, with the increase in temperature, the tree is waking up, but the tree just beginning to grow. So that they are active roots, but not so much. Prime time for me that we can do a lot of reduction in the roots. But as soon as the candle have stretched out and open up into needle form, that's too late. Okay, we do not want to mess with the roots. You can imagine it's by then the tree need to put on a lot of energy. You need to convert a lot of the resources from the roots into turning into production in the needle mass. All right, we do not want to mess with the roots then. But if we do it now, I haven't lost any tree, and I haven't seen any tree suffer with the heavy reduction in roots prior to them opening up. So to me, this is a prime time to do it. Okay, you could do it earlier. You could do it a bit later after it's opened up, maybe after midsummer, early autumn. You can still do root pruning. But I find if we need to do quite a bit of reduction in roots, look for that 2 to 3 weeks window while the candle is emerging. Okay, you can see it's well and truly emerging now, a bit of length. So this is a prime time to do it. Okay, that's just my observation. I'm sure other people have different opinion, but that's sort of, it has worked for me.
You mentioned the white root. What were you talking about there?
Yeah, there.
Okay, so they're
the tree it's waking up.
right.
Yeah, the roots are moving.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a white sort of fungus or bacteria or something?
Mycorrhiza or mycelium, mycorrhiza. This tree actually does not have any. If you look at it, it does not have any. That is a beneficial bacteria that acts almost like an extension from the roots. Okay, the root mass might be there, but every bit of that mycelium, the mycorrhiza, is an extension from the roots. So help the tree colonize the whole root ball and then extend out and transfer the nutrients and whatever it can grab from that. So that's actually a beneficial bacteria. And sometimes what we do is some pines have lots of them. We will have a few of that. We will reserve that and put it in there and let it grow again. All right, so that's
only in pines.
mostly in pines. I've never seen them in any other species. Yeah, I've never seen them any other species other than pines. And I found it on white pine, black pine, red pine, Scots pine, Mugo pine, and all sort of pines, but nothing else that I've come across. I could be wrong. I'm sure they do coexist with other species, but as far as finding them in the tree that we grow, only on the pine trees. All right. I'm sure we'll have plenty of final roots in there too. All right, so we can go a bit hard. I reckon in this case, we can still get our saw out, just chop half of it off. We have plenty in down there. All right, up there already, so we can get rid of half straight away. All right, there's no big roots. It's actually very, 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 very wet. Okay, because you can see the potting mix are very mushy. It's all broken down. All right, so hence we need to provide aeration. Okay, so when you get rid of a lot of those old soil, broken down pine bark off. I won't go as hard and as far in there as we did with the trident maple. We could, but I won't go that hard. Okay, because there's really no need, and there's actually still plenty of roots in there. Okay, the big roots that we have to deal with is just more of the same, trimming these roots back. Okay, but the same sort of deal. Bottom roots cut off. And then we tease out the sides enough for them to grow into the new medium. Okay, and we still kept quite a bit of the old soil in there for just so that you can, yeah. We don't want to mess up with that micro ecosystem in there too much. Sooner or later though, we're gonna have to go through and then remove a bit more. But this time you can see we chopped off 80% easy from the tree already. But still plenty of roots there, so the tree should be fine.
Very good.
Okay.